Welcome to Jadonna Live. Step right up, step right up. Cannot wait to chat with you all today. Welcome back to Jadonna Live, a space that is honest, passionate, and non-threatening, where people can process out loud, ask better questions, grow on purpose, without pretending they've got it all together. Super excited to have you all. Had a great episode last week, and lots of great engagement, which is really fun. And so decided to piggyback on that conversation with my friend today. So that is what you all will be hearing. It's been fun in the Midwest when the weather changes and it's finally warmer and the Pacers, are in the NBA finals, which is actually insane. There's just been a lot of good buzz. Went to a pool today with my kid and he really enjoyed it, and my best friend's baby shower. So a lot of good energy, a lot of good generating energy. Another friend of mine had a baby recently, and I've got a fun presentation this week that I will tell you all how it went next week. Haven't done one like this, like a live one, in a little. I kind of do a presentation every week with this, but not like what I'm doing this week in the entrepreneurial group I'm in. So yeah, just trying to put myself out there more. I need to be making more money. So if anyone has connections to people needing any work that from this podcast, you've been like, Jadonna could do that, hit me up, because I'm needing it. But yeah, outside of that, let's hop right on over to affirmations and let's do it. All right, now it is time for the affirmation segment. For those new to the podcast, I conduct an affirmation segment every episode where I invite people to repeat life-giving phrases out loud, ingraining them into your subconscious mind. So the goal is to be intentional about who you want to be and where you're going. And I started an affirmations practice 2022 when I had my kid, because I did hypno babies, an episode for another time. And it was so powerful and kind of taught me a lot about intentional meditation and where it can lead. So had to incorporate that into the podcast. And you're welcome to listen to each affirmation first and then repeat it out loud with me the second time. My purpose for this segment today, that's all about not just community, but self-confidence, is to remind you of who you are. And oh my gosh, not very peaceful with so much going on in the background, so apologies for that, but it is just kind of what it is today. So we are going to bring in peace amidst everything else. So just go ahead and plant your feet on the ground. For me, as you do so, begin to lower your shoulders. Take a deep breath through your nose. Release through your mouth. And repeat after me. I am a valuable member of my community. I am a valuable member of my community. I have things to offer. I have things to offer. My presence by itself is enough. My presence by itself is enough. I am enough. I am enough. I give grace to the people in my community. I give grace to the people in my community. I give grace to myself. I give grace to myself. May community find me if it hasn't already. May community find me. I welcome strong, fun, fulfilling community. I welcome strong, fun, fulfilling community. I know my worth, and my presence is enough. I know my worth, and my presence is enough. Yay. Thanks, y'all. I feel good about that. I used to just come up with affirmations kind of like in the moment and feel it out, but I started to write them out, and I feel like I overthink them when I write them out. And so trying to get back to coming up with them right in the moment. We'll see how it goes. First time doing that in a while. So yeah, let's move on. All right. Now it is time for the mini moment segment. I'm so excited to be here again. And in this segment, I introduce topics that have been on my mind lately, share related thoughts, and invite you all to relay your thoughts to me via email as well. So please write in your thoughts to me at jadonnalive@gmail.com. Today's mini moment continues our theme of community. And this time, I got my pal Malachi here. And yeah, so Malachi, it is his first time on the pod. Oh, do you hear that? It's applause. It's applause. It's applause. Malachi is a multidisciplinary creative, an educator from the Far East side of Indy. He has degrees in English education and writing, and he's currently finishing his master's in applied communication at IUND. Drop the graduation date real quick, right in the middle of the intro.
So technically, I have crossed the stage. I just need to finish my thesis, which is like pending August. First week in August.
Oh my gosh, we love. He teaches English and digital media at a high school and has spent over a decade guiding students of various ages, blending poetry, photography, digital storytelling, all within his teaching. He likes the alias to perform under called, is it A+ Scribe or is it A Scribe? I've never known how to say
it. It's A Scribe. Like my tagline is A Scribe, the plus sign is silent. Or the plus sign is silent. Yeah.
Ooh. So under the alias A Scribe, Malachi engages also through poetry, hip hop, ministering, and visual art. And his work has been featured in spaces like the Indianapolis Airport, and WQRT Circle Anthology. And if that wasn't enough, if he wasn't busy enough, he also hosts a podcast called the Unapologetics Podcasts and organizes with local Black justice groups, centering his creative and academic work with the intersections of race, Christian faith, and culture. And let me say, Malachi, welcome to the pod.
It's so good to be here. This is such an honor to be on Jadonna Live.
So excited to have you. And
for sure.
Yeah, Malachi. Whoa, how are we coming into this? What's up? What's the energy? What's the vibe?
Two things. One, I was listening to two of your previous episodes, and at first, like when you were saying, the next episode, we're going to have someone that you know or a friend of yours who's like doing something major with coffee, I was like, what is that? Does she think that's me? Oh my gosh. Like, what did I tell her?
No, that's my buddy Lauren.
Okay. And then secondly, whilst I was listening to these episodes, I was like, and thinking about a previous episode or two I've listened to, I was like, man, like this podcast is so cool. Jadonna's so cool. She's really doing cool things. Man, I wish I could be on this podcast. Wait. I am on this podcast. Today's the day. So I made it.
Oh my gosh. Well, you've made it from your intro. You've already made it. And yeah, I cannot wait to talk to you today because I was telling listeners on the podcast last week, I ended up in a community series kind of on accident. I did an episode on community kind of initially, And then I was talking to my neighbors, and then they came on, and then continuing to talk about like neighborhood stuff because of a
Yeah.
game night I'm doing. And then I was trying to come up with an idea for last week and then found an article talking about friends not necessarily, or community members not necessarily being friends. And
Right,
I was
right.
telling Malachi that that kind of led to a whole can of worms. So before we get into that, I want to kind of backtrack a little and talk to Malachi about what community means to you.
Hmm.
Kind of speak to that for us.
Yeah, like the first word that comes to mind is consistency. Just the fact that like it can happen in one or two ways. One, by default, if you were always considered a part of a certain community. Like, for instance, the skin that we wear, we're always going to be, by default, a part of the Black community or, however you identify in your various intersections, right? And then for people who want to be more intentional about how they show up in their communities, their respective communities, that will be defined sometimes, a lot of times, by how consistent people perceive you to be in that community. If you're thinking about like engagement, involvement, especially if you want to think about leadership and even, sometimes membership, because like, yeah, sometimes you might think that you are a part of a community when in reality, others will not deem you so because they may not see you. In places where I come from, they'll say, you're not outside. Like, you've never been outside. Like, who are you? So that's probably the biggest thing I think about is consistency. And then that two dichotomy between the default of the things that we don't ask to be a part of, I guess, whether that's good or bad, and then the intentionality aspect.
Okay. Okay. I think I get that. So for you, being present consistently enough kind of defines whether someone is in a community or not, outside of the fact that like certain communities are going to belong to, like you just said, because we're Black, we'll always be in that community. But outside of something like that specific of an identifier, other communities you are in because you show up. I get that. I wanted you to kind of speak to maybe just high level how many communities you are in
Oh my
and
gosh.
what those are. And obviously there's no way anyone could even like break that down, I feel like, if they tried, because so many little communities aren't even defined. But you
Yeah.
mentioned all of the involvement you have even in your intro, and so it's like, how are those active like it seems like you'd be in a church community, maybe a like creative community, a podcast community. Like what does that look like kind of in your day to day?
Yeah. So, once again, by default, just in case people ain't watching the video, I'm Black. Blackity black. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like there's also a specifically like the Indianapolis Black community. You know what I'm saying? Or Midwest. I guess like going past the intersections, yeah, some communities that I more intentionally or like consistently intentionally try to be a part of in some way is yes, like the local Black community, wherever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then also, yeah, like you mentioned, with my various obligations and vocations and whatnot, I'm the director of elementary at Overcoming Church. That's my home church. I've been going there since I was 4 years old. So I have, chosen to be an active participant, an active leader in that community, especially when it comes to youth ministry. So there's that. There is I guess like the arts community. That one's kind of hard to talk about in Indianapolis sometimes because like it depends on because sometimes there may be like certain factions with that, but like I would like to think in a general sense I do try to connect with artists at large around the city. But even with that, there are factions when it comes to specific arts, whether that be poetry or visual art that I'm trying to be more a part of or more active, I guess, in that regard. And then what else? Oh my goodness. Like, oh, I should have wrote this down. So there's also being a part of the education community in a sense.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yes, because like that's, relative to the school where I teach in a microcosmic sense, if that's a word. I teach at Shortridge High School, but then I like to consider myself as a part of like this grander group of teachers here in Indianapolis, whether that's as simple as just existing as a teacher and having some shared experiences or intentional where a couple weeks ago we went downtown to go make some noise about some decisions that are happening at the legislative level here in Indianapolis that will greatly affect what we do and how we do it.
And the reason I wanted to ask you that is because based on the conversation we had last week, the big macro question was your community aren't
Yeah.
necessarily your friends.
Yeah.
I love your explanation of all the communities you are in, because to me, that just provides another reason why there is no way someone could be friends with every single person
Right.
in the communities that they're in, simply because as humans and multifaceted individuals, we have a lot of interest and
Yeah.
we engage across a lot of different communities. I want to back up a little because I was telling Malachi, I'm like, you have to have your phone up and ready for this episode, because when I posted
We're
on
getting it in.
TikTok about whether our community was also our friend, I literally just pulled it up. So it ended up getting 22,000 views and like 3,700 likes and 580 bookmarks, blah, blah, blah. I don't state that for stats sake. I
Jadonna
say
is
that
viral.
because it seemed like a lot of our peers were very interested in this concept and in this idea that community doesn't always mean friendship. And so what I wanted to do with Malachi today was actually sift through some of these comments, because people had really interesting things to say. And I would love to just kind of go through a chunk of them. Obviously can't get through 149 comments, but want to just kind of talk about what some of that means, because it seemed like a lot of people struggled with this. It seemed like there was a commonality of people feeling pressure to engage with people across their communities in a way that they would engage with their friend. It wasn't clear. Obviously, I didn't like actually extract everything in a spreadsheet and do a complete analysis, but it did seem like there was pressure.
Yo, that'd be cool.
I do want to say my comments are predominantly female, so I don't know if, you know, that's another factor that kind of plays into it, and kind of how we're socialized to engage with people and then kind of like be there for them and kind of be a support system for them. But outside of people providing just like good, interesting comments, there were a lot of just like sentiments of understanding. People who are like, oh God, I get this. Or like, it's really tough. Or this literally just clicked for me. Or this has been, you know, on my mind. Or this can maybe help me not be as overwhelmed. Another person was like, that's totally right. This is the ecosystem. So let me kind of back up. So for those of you who didn't listen to the podcast last week, a premise that was kind of pulled from Psychology Today was the fact that we can be a part of a lot of different communities. Like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone within the communities are our friends, because there is a level of compatibility, reciprocity, mutual interests, similar worldviews, and even physical attraction that can play a part in who is in your, you know, circle and who's actually described as a friend, versus folks who you have similar interests with, who you may come across a decent amount of time, who you are in a particular group in, where you all have certain roles and responsibilities, and you not necessarily needing to be super compatible with them or have an intimate interest in their personal life and their personal growth. And until last week, I never even thought about that before. And when I first read this article, having been previously like in the church community intensely, I first read that and I was like, oh my gosh, this describes my church experience so much. Like being in such intimate community with people, but not necessarily being friends with every single person. And so before we kind of get into the TikTok comments, any just higher level comments on that, Malachi, before we get into that?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is anyone who's not your friend, they ugly.
I didn't write the article.
I mean, you know, there are some people who like have some ugliness to them in terms of personality and attitude, and especially in the way they may treat others. Like, if that don't vibe me, it's like, hey, we can't be friends. And then
Real.
I thought about, speaking of previous episodes and podcasts, I guess shameless plug for the Unapologetics podcast. In season 2, hey, just don't forget the S at the end of Unapologetics, y'all. So I was interviewing someone I was fortunate to meet years back. She goes by KB, and what she does is what she calls heart convos. And so she creates a lot of content based around friendship, and she will actually differentiate levels and tiers of friendship from one another. Like there's the stranger level where, you know, very low stakes and you're sharing a common bond over just information. You two share common information between each other, exchange common information. Then there's acquaintance, which is a bond that's formed over mutual investment. in an event or an activity. And then there's the compatriot level, which is a bond that's formed over shared interests, which takes it a step further. Then the comrade level, where there's a much more intentionality, and that common bond is formed through that intentionality, like inviting each other to be vulnerable with one another, mutual vulnerability. And then last but not least, the inner circle, which is a bond formed or bonds formed via intimacy. That's something that I've thought about as well. Like if we're differentiating between community membership versus friendship, and like even with that, like some people will think because they share something with each other in that community that means that off rip we're friends, and it's like, no, we are not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friendly towards you. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have a positive relationship. It just may not be the relationship you think it is.
So that is a great lead into one of the comments I can't currently find, but like, what if the exact scenario you just said, you're a friend to me, but I'm not a friend to you.
Right.
So if we're just being honest about how this can play out IRL, what in the hell do you do when that is the scenario? If you are on the receiving end of that, like, I feel like we've maybe all experiences. I know I have being on the receiving end of that, and you're just like, you have enough social context to be able to tell, like,
right.
And I feel like you have to, I feel like you have to be kind of socially aware of it. Because if you aren't, you're going to end up being, oh God, I'm like mortified to even think about that. Thank God I'm socially aware, but like you're going to end up being someone who has no idea that the other person doesn't even like or want to be around them. And to me,
completely oblivious.
Oh God, that's just like painful. And I've been around those people. But it's also like you have to have a level of thick skin to not be hurt and to understand, they're cool.
Right.
But maybe it's just not me, and that it just is what it is.
Right. Or on the other end too, you may be completely oblivious oblivious of how someone else perceives you.
Ooh, okay, expound on that.
And so like for instance, there are times where, let's go like this when it comes to interracial friendships or acquaintanceships, any of those types of relationships, right? Where in years like 2020, where where people you were connected with in a community thought you were their friend. And come out of nowhere asking you all these questions to try to garner some level of vulnerability and intimacy from you. And it's like, I haven't heard from you in years. I haven't seen you in years. You never check in with me. I've never checked in with you. Why are you coming at me with all this heat? Whether it's the form of like these weird questions that I don't want to answer because I don't feel comfortable answering those questions with you about my Black experiences, or certain arguments that you want to start up as if you know me. And so you assume my level of knowledge about the very things that I've experienced based on your perception of me. And it's like, wait, sometimes I've had to sit back and just be like, wait, what did I do to even convince this person that we were at this level?
Yeah, like to make you think that it was okay for you to be this comfortable with me. And that's something the article does not touch on at all. It's kind of like the interracial aspect of that, because I feel like that is a pretty significant part, especially in just white context I've been in historically, especially with white women specifically, who will think that by nature of me being somewhere, they're like, oh, they kind of want to befriend me.
For sure.
But I am like, I don't trust people like that, period. Especially, I hate to say it, white women who I do not know. That can be the hardest barrier for me to just like immediately open up and trust. I hate to say it, it's the reality.
It be like that.
And
it's
so,
my bad,
go ahead.
Oh, it's like something that you mentioned on your last episode, and it's something I want to talk to you about at one point. It doesn't have to be now, like, so we can like, make sure I'll be the one to derail the whole conversation and be like, all right, what were we talking about anyway? I almost did just now. But it was something that you were saying, Ember, to the degree of you were just trying to survive, and that's how you end up in some of those, what seems to be friendship. It's like, for you, it's friendship. For me, it's a defense mechanism. it's a shield. It's a barrier. I'm trying to like fortify my
Mhm.
existence here in this space by bringing all of y'all what it apparently close to me, but we still at an arm's length if we're really talking about my innermost self, like my most intimate self, my most vulnerable self. What y'all saw was transparency, but it was not vulnerability. We're like, yeah, I may have even invited you to the cookout. That was transparency. So you can see what blackness looks like through a looking glass or whatever.
Dang.
Not looking glass through a window, but I didn't actually invite you on the other side of that window. I didn't invite you into my close quarters like that. So I
See,
understand how you got it twisted.
I couldn't agree more with that, but I would also argue that in those scenarios as well, those folks aren't being open, vulnerable, and their honest selves either, a lot of the
Facts.
times, in terms
Big
of
facts.
really opening up to like who they really are versus kind of showing who they want you to see. And
Absolutely.
so that definitely get that. That's actually maybe an interesting conversation for an autre temps. But I would kind of still along with that. I mean, like I said, thick skin, awareness, there's like so much psychology kind of behind it. And so, other thought, I had someone kind of say, I joined a community. This is Brenna. She's my friend on TikTok. Love shouting people out who may or may not ever hear this. They said,
What's up,
what if I
Brenna?
joined a community to make friends, but no one is reciprocating my attempts to get to know them? Making friends as an adult is wild. I'm trying so
Mm.
hard. I go to events, I invite people to hang out one on one or even in
Mm.
smaller groups. It has been a full year
Mm.
and I still haven't made friends.
Wow.
And
Wow.
firstly, I just want to say I empathize with that a lot. I do not think that is anything to be ashamed or embarrassed about. It is hard as an adult making friends,
Mm-hmm.
especially I don't know her context, like I don't know where she is, but
Right.
especially one if you're a transplant to a city,
Absolutely.
especially I feel like it's maybe harder if you're a transplant to a smaller city than you are a bigger one, because at least bigger ones, there's a lot of people in and out. When you're a transplant in these smaller cities, again, I don't know Brenna's scenario, a lot of people in smaller cities, I don't have a stat for this, but don't necessarily leave. It's just
True.
true. You meet people, they're like, I'm
Right.
born and raised here, I've been out here.
That
No,
I'm one of them.
no disrespect, but it's like it would
Not
be hard
taken.
for an outsider to then
Yes.
come in and be like, oh, hey, I want to make solid friends with all these people who have been friends. I mean, even me, sure, I left for 5 years. I returned. Guess who I'm friends with? The literal people I've been friends with since I went to a wedding of a middle school friend on Saturday
Oh,
with
day
a
oneer.
group of 15, literally at least, of our other like
Yeah.
middle and high school friend group of people I have known forever. You think I'm out here trying to make a ton of new friends? Actually, I low-key am, specifically people of color, so hit me up if you're in the Indy area listening to this. But outside of that, no. Literally, no. Not really.
Yeah.
Here and there, yes, but for the most part, no. So, well, I don't know. What are your thoughts on someone in Brenna's scenario? Because
That's tough.
it's so tough.
I can't imagine because like I haven't been in that. Well, okay, in ways I've been in that situation, but only in the context of like a 4-year institution where I'm living on campus, right?
Yeah. You know it's
Or
temporary.
you and I we've shared experiences like in our previous employment,
Yep.
and so, but like we would have to talk about the racial element at that point. So
Yeah, we don't have time.
that's
We'll have to.
right. We ain't got time for that. But Brenna.
No one
Oh man,
reciprocating. No
no
one
one is
reciprocating. And we're
reciprocating.
trying. I mean, gosh, I don't want to. I hate to be like, I guess maybe if you know those people don't care, do you just give
Yeah.
up and move on, or do you keep trying?
Yeah, like I feel like I have more questions than statements. Like I want to know like where is she going
Yeah. Who
and
are they?
who are these people, right? And like what yeah, like I want to know all the places that she's gone to and how many times she's made these attempts and in what way she's made these attempts and whatnot. Yeah, that I'm sorry, Brenda.
Yeah.
That sounds tough. Nah, I wish you well. I'm rooting for you. I almost made a mistake myself. I almost offered myself. I was like,
Yeah.
Brenda,
See, no, and that is another
this is how it happens.
extremely interesting point.
This is how it happens.
Some of us are conditioned to
Yeah.
be the people in a community that help that are the befrienders.
Yes.
That used to be me until I realized,
Keyword used to.
I don't like all people that much. Like
Right.
I went through a I love everyone, I just love people stage to a I hate people stage to a I feel like I'm back home now to a I like some people
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Other people, I will make sure you understand if you are engaging with me in a way that I find inappropriate or I do not like, you will literally see on my face that I do not care and I do not want to engage and I feel 0% bad about it. That's just like where I'm at
For sure.
now. And
Respect.
so I love that, but I feel like if people don't necessarily know how to authentically show that they are not interested, how would you even be able, even if let's say Brenna is
Yeah.
self-aware, but the
Yeah.
person's not even showing that they're not interested, they're just like not making plans with her. What do you even do in that scenario besides
Oh
be
my
butthurt
goodness.
because it seems like someone doesn't want to talk to you? I
Right.
feel for you, Brenna. I hate that scenario, and I feel it's probably far too common than not, because at least in my experiences with people, I feel like most even close friends of mine and people I meet aren't super forthcoming with how they genuinely feel about people to them.
Yo,
Or in
that
my
part.
scenario,
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even like convince themselves that they maybe like someone when they don't, just because they feel like not being compatible is not a good enough reason to not hang out.
Right. And or it's like somehow indicative of your character, or like
Exactly.
indicative of a character flaw. And like I guess something I think about too is with where I'm at, I'm trying to do a better job of being like, if I'm gonna position myself to do any of that, I'm gonna I'm gonna try to be the person to put someone on to somebody else. And be
Mm,
like, oh, I have this circle over here, and I have this circle over here. I'm trying to get to the point to get those circles to converge,
yeah.
so I can step back and let them do their thing on their own, and be like, yeah, my friends or my people are people now. They're people and
But
they're
that's if
making
you like the
friends.
person.
Right.
And I'm not saying you would hate someone, but like that's if you know someone to connect them to. God forbid
Absolutely.
it's someone where you're just like, I mean, God bless them. They deserve to be happy, but whoa, not for me. Not for my friends either.
Right. And even then I have to, tell myself like, well, I may just be doing this to get people to be in the same room with each other, to get to know one another and connect with each other. That connection does not have
Mm,
to be a friendship.
true.
I just want you to know this person because this person is doing what you're doing, or this person may be doing something better than what you're doing, and you're trying to be at that level, and I think that can help you get there.
True.
So yeah, Brenna, I don't know what this is gonna look like for you. I got questions. If you want to hit some, I don't know. If you really want to have that conversation, I'd be interested in having that conversation, but I ain't got nothing for you right now. I'm sorry, Brenna.
Yeah, that's a toughie. And kind of pivoting lanes. So someone else mentioned it bothers me when my coworkers try to be my friend and work against me when I'm
Mm,
very clear that I'm not interested. I'm on their
mm,
side. I'm willing to help out, but I have enough
mm-hmm,
friends.
mm-hmm. I have enough
AJ,
friends.
shout out to you. That's real as fuck. I get it.
Yeah.
I I love what Malachi, I love what you said a second ago when you feel like sometimes you want to engage in friendship because you feel like it's indicative of your own character. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, like I can relate to that because I feel like I'm in scenarios a decent amount where I'm like, gosh, they're clearly being left out. I don't believe in people being left out. Like I just don't.
Mm,
They call it a childhood
same.
wound, whatever. Like if
Yeah.
someone is sticking out, I will be the first one to kind of be like, blah, 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 whatever.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, people who tend to be left out, not all the time,
Some, but
but can
sometimes.
be, not all the time,
But sometimes.
can be socially awkward,
Yeah.
there in a way where it's like hard to converse with them. Let's just say compatibility with at least my personality would be low. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to kind of engage to include, but you're not looking to befriend actually in any way.
Right.
And that can be hard, especially in a work setting, because you're trying to like do to get through. And then I feel like I have actually been on the opposite end of that, where I worked somewhere like a couple years ago, and it was one of the hardest like social settings I had worked in
Mm-hmm.
because I think I was kind of like processing and figuring out, who I was, who I wanted to be, whatever. And it seemed like the people I worked with were maybe aware of that, but just had no grace or like kindness
Mm,
toward it all, and were
mm,
really kind of harsh and I would say like borderline bullying.
mm.
to me as an adult. And that was not a pleasant experience. And I
Okay.
remember trying to like, oh, you guys are doing something? Oh, I can come. Like trying to
Right.
continue to invite myself and kind of like put myself out there to
Hmm.
participate and stuff. Meanwhile, not historically having any issue making friends or like being in that scenario at all. So it was very,
Right. Have you met Jadonna?
it was
Come
a
on
very
now.
peculiar situation that yeah, even my husband's like, that was, it was so weird. And now I see people and we're like, oh, what's up? How's it going? It was just like, it was like that stage of
Mm,
life that was so
mm,
odd. But when you're on the opposite side of that, it's like, it's almost not worth it. You almost have to look at
mm,
yourself and be like, do I want people to tolerate me or no? Like,
mm.
and maybe that's the same with Brenna's scenario. Like, how much am I going to put myself out there to people who do not see me as worth being friends with?
Right.
At what point, like, what does that do for you? What does
Right.
that do for your self-worth? And I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, a couple of things. Like one, the idea of the looking glass self. And having like what you said earlier, like having that social awareness, like so the looking glass self is thinking about how others perceive you, like as if
Mm,
you can jump outside yourself and see yourself through the looking glass or whatever. But
got it.
because like there's some times where some people may not do that very well, and they don't realize how they come across to others. Now, don't get me wrong, like there are people who just may not have that ability. You know what I'm saying? We're thinking about things like autism and that particular spectrum.
Yeah.
That's one thing. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And then like there needs to be a conversation about awareness in that regard as well, because there are people who may not know that someone is autistic. Um, and or not have the skill to or the
Adjust.
consideration, I guess,
Yeah.
to try to consider like every potential variable or whatnot that causes someone to behave in a certain way. This is the teacher coming out of me, right?
Real.
So it's complicated. It really is. And then, yeah, like there are times where I've had to say to myself, like, I'm just not gonna be in with the cool crowd, and that's okay. These are not my people, and that's all right. Like for instance, because like in certain communities, there are gatekeepers, right? And yeah, like I've talked to. I'm trying to talk about this lightly because like I don't want to be position myself to gossip or anything like that.
I
But
love gossip, but I understand it. I understand if you are morally opposed, and I respect that.
I guess like I'll present it like this: identifying challenges in community, especially like in the arts community, sometimes in the poetry community, where it's like, okay, these people are over here and they're doing their thing, and I've tried to get in on
Mm,
that to be
yeah.
a part of that, and I may have even like felt like I've had some stock in that because like I've done this for them, I've done that for them, I've shown up for them in this space, I've promoted their things, you know what I'm saying? But it's not being reciprocated, and so it's like, okay, at one point this has become a me problem because like they may not even be aware. This is the healthy side of me speaking. They may
Mm,
not even be aware how I feel about that,
mhm.
especially if I haven't communicated that. And we don't even have that kind of
I
relationship.
was gonna say,
We don't even have that. We don't even have a friendship
yeah,
where we have a
poor.
common bond and rapport that shares or invites each other into vulnerability. That's going back to that 5-tier friendship, having that
Mhm.
the camaraderie, right? And so at some point, I have to be responsible for what I do and how I do it in those spaces. And I've had to step back from some of those spaces, not burning a bridge per se, because like if they're still doing events, like I'll still be like, hey, for people who ask me, hey, what's going on with this and that? I'm like, oh, you should go over here.
Mhm.
The very space I don't even want to be at.
Yeah. Well, because it seems like what you realize is they're not interested in friendship. However, I'm still in this community, so I will
Right.
pursue them now as an acquaintance without
Yep.
the stress or honestly energy toward
Right.
anything more.
Right. Because like who knows? Like maybe they're at their capacity when it comes to whatever I expected from them and like to join in on that. Which is okay because like people are not built to, and this is like the challenge of navigating social media and those interactions. Like we are not equipped to have all this attention on us in one moment. Like it's unnatural, really. And so and then on top of that, try to manage all of that engagement is a very unnatural thing as well. Don't get me wrong. Some people do it very well naturally. Social media, what do you call them?
Like influencers, content creators.
Yeah, influencers, content creators, and then even before we got to that kind of language and terminology, those who were like running social media pages for certain entities, whether that be for a group, a corporation, or an individual.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's a lot going on that we may not even know, but what we do and should know is ourselves.
Yeah. Perfect alignment to what I was thinking. Because I think just kind of to kind of wrap things up here, that is the advice like I would give myself in this scenario, and to give myself in any sort of like community pursuing or friendship pursuing scenario, is right when you are starting to sense like a lack of value.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just like negative self-talk, like, oh, I suck. But no, right when you start to observe, like trust yourself, right when you start to observe, like they're not seeing me for who I really am. Or like they don't see what I really have to offer. Or
and I'm the greatest.
Period. They're not
I love me. Why don't you? Like,
I mean, they're not asking my opinions. Like I am, and you are an asset in every single space you are in. Whether other people see it or not is up to them. That's the energy.
That could be their problem. It doesn't have to be yours.
Got it from my mom, got it from my papa. That's the energy. When you're
your parents
in the
are real
space,
cool, by the way.
When you're in the space, like you're worthy of being heard. And so still acknowledging though that could still mean that someone will hear you and acknowledge you and welcome you and not want to know anything else about your life when you leave that context. Like, I just feel like bring acquaintances back. Bring acquaintances back.
Bring acquaintances back.
That's going to be my, like, that TikTok thing. Bring acquaintances back. So anyway, Malachi, I know we didn't get into the trillions of things we wanted to, but I tried
to tell you this will happen.
I super appreciate you being on the pod. I feel like this will absolutely not be the last time. I absolutely need to come on yours too, and we got to do this all over.
Absolutely. Yeah, but this is only the beginning.
I appreciate your time. And is there anything else you want to drop for the listeners before we head out of here?
Yeah. First of all, the socials, and then there's something I want to say. The Unapologetics podcast, we're on all kinds of platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on all of them. So 3 words, The Unapologetics with an S at the end podcast. You can follow me on social media, Ascribe Rights. That's ASCRIBEWRITES. So like Ascribe Rights. So that's Instagram. That's X. That's TikTok. You know, I'm trying to do the TikTok thing. I feel old, but I'm trying to get like Jadonna. She got like 22K looking at her stuff. Like, yo.
You are so inconsistent for me, and that's the absolute highest I've ever had. I have like 800 followers.
Hey, but you're doing it though. And then like, yeah, on Facebook, you can find me at Malachi Carter, Malachi, rhymes with apple pie Carter. We will be Facebook friends, but don't get it twisted.
Just because you're my friend doesn't mean I actually like you on Facebook. So
right. But like, if we cool, then we cool. You know what I'm saying? And then something I want to say to you personally, Jadonna, real quick. I know time is time, but I've been thinking a lot about how we met and the space that we were in at the time. And one thing that's been like looming over my head for a couple years. I don't think I've ever really talked to you about this, but I just want to say I really appreciate you, and like I wish I would have.
Be bad.
No, it's only bad for me. Like I wish I.
Oh no,
Jadonna, I wish I would have done a better job when it comes to my engagement with you, like especially like one, because I feel like in those spaces working at a predominantly white organization where I perceive it like this, where there have been calculated efforts to separate black people in those spaces.
Come on. So
you and I were never, we may have been co-counselors once, but I can't remember.
So real.
Because it never happened.
So real.
It never happened. And so I remember the first day I saw you, because you had your reputation preceded you. It was like that kind of moment where everybody was hyping me up about you. Everyone was talking about Jadonna this, Jadonna that, Jadonna. And I'm like, okay, who is this Jadonna? And then I meet you and I'm like, I see why y'all love her so much. Yeah. And like, cause like I've been in that position, and like I had like, I'm not saying it was necessarily envy, but this is what I'm calling it right now. Having like that sense of this weird token envy.
Yep.
You know, so we right here. We right here with it.
Yep, like there's only room for one of us.
Right. And so like I wish I had a better understanding of community at the time. I wish I had a better understanding of friendship at the time. And especially when it comes to supporting each other as being a part of the black community.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, yes, we were in spaces to support each other, like when it comes to our spiritual growth and our faith and the way we express that and service and whatnot, and helping these kids have a good time at camp. But I wish I would have made more efforts or some better efforts, because there were efforts. I just wish there were better efforts to connect with you in that regard. So with that being said, I'm so thankful to be here on this podcast. I'm so thankful for what you opened yourself up to do in 2020 when you and I reconnected. At first, it was an event where we were talking about these things, and that wasn't even 2020. This is back in Light of the World, and right. This is it was like, it may have been like 2014, 15, something like that, and then I don't know what happened, but out of nowhere, here's Jadonna saying, "Hey, I want more Black friends, and we about to do this right now."
Black Together 2020.
Yes, that was like one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I really appreciate you for that. Here we are.
And yeah, for those who don't know, 2020 was everything happening with George Floyd. And I think I was far enough away from a lot of what I had known in California to have a lot of reflection time and be like, I want to intentionally reconnect with like the Black people, or I have come across who were dope, but you are in this like minority mindset because of things that are not your fault. Where I was like always not, you're like scared to be the token, and you're scared to just be in the Black clique of like, so whatever.
It's not supposed to be this way.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much freedom in kind of releasing yourself from that. And I think that is why I was so excited to kind of do Black Together and reconnect with a lot of people I had known from different areas who a lot of us had known each other from, you know how that works. And so, no, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you being on the pod. I love when you plug all your stuff. So yeah, people check that out. And
my bad. One more thing. Also, if you're in the Indy area, tomorrow I am hosting, speaking of community, doing stuff in the arts community, I'm hosting what I'm calling, like bar crawling. This is art crawling. I've told you about this before. And I actually saw your parents a couple of times while I've been out here doing this.
They are art investors. They love art.
I love your parents, for real. So we go around to various art galleries every first Friday, because first Friday is when a lot of art galleries are open for free. And it's a good time. We go out, we look at art. We typically find free food and drinks every now and then. Or if you stick with me, I'll show you where the good stuff is at. I'll show you where the free stuff is at.
Ooh.
But they're also like, people worry about being able to eat if you're out for that many hours. There are also like food trucks here and there. But overall, it's a good time being able to immerse yourself in the art community. And, maybe you can walk away with something too, like purchase some art too, like support people.
Yeah. And I'll say, since this is going to come out a little bit later, it is the first Friday of every month is what he's referring to. So if you are in the Indy area, that's something you can check out. But yeah, follow Malachi. He'll give you updates on social. And outside of that, let's move on. That was such a fun episode. It's really wild who remains in your various communities after you've been involved in so many things over the course of years and years and years. You really can never assume who will be there in 5 years, in 10 years. Like, you think you can. You think you'll know. I feel like sometimes we have hunches, but it's been fun to kind of be aware of that. And, Malachi's one of those dudes. So, again, reach out at JadonnaLive@gmail.com. Oh my gosh, please reach out. If you have any comments, questions, or just thought about the episode, I would love to kind of chat with you. And I meant to tell people in the past couple of weeks, but I keep forgetting. For anyone who screenshots a review they have made on Spotify or Apple for Jadonna Live, please send me an email as well, and I will shoot people $5 gift cards. So really appreciate that. It's just a little hard to get people to make reviews, to be honest, at least in my experience. And I just need them to be able to, show people that people actually do listen. And the past week has been really fun. I've noticed more people listening outside of my release dates, which is a really good and just fun sign. Shout out to y'all for doing what you do. Really appreciate it. And outside of that, do I have anything else I need to tell y'all? No, breathe deeply, take it easy, and keep doing what you do. I'll catch you next week. Same place, same vibe. Bye.